Hey guys, and welcome to episode 8 of the Frontboards and Four Baggers podcast. I am Eddie from Cornhole Bag Reviews, and we got Corbin from Corbin's Cornhole Reviews. Today we're going with some OG carpet. We got the original players. We got the Pro Advantage from Reynolds, and we got the Vikings from BG. I would say these are probably two of the more either original or the most popular over the course of time. Obviously, there's tons of more carpet that's starting to come out now, but these were kind of the first like mainstays in the competitive scene, I would say. Very similar bags in terms of play style and speeds and kind of materials too, and the way they feel. Slightly different on both, but both kind of same play style, same route to go on these. So we'll start with the Pro Advantage here. So I got an old set from like 2019, unstamped. Pretty broken in, but I like the old set because it's their old fill too. It's slightly different than the new fill, but so the stats on these, so they're a 4.7 speed. It's just the carpet on the slow side. It's the full carpet, same with BGs, and not the hybrid. And then they call it their Advantage material on the fast side. I'm almost positive it's that 7 soft material that we like. It doesn't feel quite as soft, yeah, but it might be the reverse of the Costello, that really popular old material that they used to use on a lot of just suede bags and stuff, which it easily could be. But that 4.7 material. The bead is a small asymmetrical bead, a little bit bigger than the BG fill, which means this is a little bit less puffy than a BG, but still a smaller bead. Price point, Reynolds shines in price point. We're looking at, $54 plus shipping, which I think is like $12. So under $70, brand new. And then you can get your name on it for like $5. You can get customs for like $10 or something. I mean, just very affordable. And then on Facebook, I mean, you can find used sets. I got these for $35. You can get all the way up to like $50, $60. But they're not that expensive because they're not that expensive to get in the first place. So definitely get your hands on these. A lot of people have them. They're pretty readily available. I think with all the new bags coming out right now, a lot of people are kind of getting rid of their old stuff. And this is one of the bags that people I think are getting rid of. But there's still people, I mean, it's still a very good bag. It still plays really, really well. If you're a person that has been throwing Pro Advantages for years, you could still throw them, and they're like your go-to bag. I know Windsor, he has like his own Windsor bags now, the platinum and the silver, but he uses the same carpet, and I think he's just adjusted the fast side or maybe a little bit. But I mean, he still throws them this type of material, and he's one of the best in the world. I mean, it's still a good bag. It's the classic. What is your opinion on a Pro Av? I know you haven't thrown one in a while, but
so I haven't thrown them in a little bit. I am, by the time this video posts, I'll probably have a set secured already. I need to get them again, just because I've been in such a carpet kick lately. But they're good bags. I had them, and I had them back in the day, like when I started throwing, which I guess was like year and a half ago. But I had like
back in the day.
I know, back in the day, uphill both ways in the snow.
Yeah,
like it was. I had a 1 of 4 set that I had no idea. It was like Blackjack's first run with Reynolds. I had no clue they were that rare, and like sold her to someone for like $50.
Yeah, sure.
It's like whatever, and I've seen
you win some, you lose some,
yeah, it is what it is. It's whatever. But I am going to be getting some back. They're a good bag. I agree with what you said on that fast side though, and that's kind of what strays me away from Reynolds a little bit. Is just the materials aren't that soft, and I mean that might lend to their playability a little bit and why they do what they do. But they just don't feel amazing in the hand. And a lot of people are going for that hand feel. But they're a good bag.
Yeah, so, I mean
I will be getting them, and I will be flopping them. And
they flop easily,
I do like
too.
them. I know they do.
Yeah, I mean, like I was throwing them today for a little while. And granted, like me and you both aren't like world's greatest floppers by any means.
No.
But I mean, like both of these bags are like very, very easy to flop and very good beginner flopping bags if you're learning how to flop. I was talking to you before this, like I think it feels kind of like when I say papery, it's just not as soft. It's very like it's
and I know what you
weird
mean.
feeling, crunchy almost feeling material, which is why I was talking to Corbin before this. These are pretty broken in, but I think I'm still going to throw them in wrinkle guard just to see if I can soften them up a tad, because that's my problem when I was throwing my friend's Pro Advantages too, because we were at a blind draw and I was like, oh, you have Pro Advantages? Let me try them quick before I buy some to review just to make sure, like see if I like them. I was getting in that carpet kick. I heard, they're the originals. And I was like, man, these just feel kind of crunchy. Like, because I was used to my Vikings that, like, I mean, granted, my Vikings are like beat all hell, but they're still soft. They're like really soft. Yes. So I'm hoping maybe a little wrinkle guard loosens it up. But I mean, like, they've been making this bag for so long. The materials were prior to a lot of the materials we're seeing now. I mean, nowadays everyone's seeing, the Game Changer material, the Viper material, that all that fast stuff, and even carpet bags now are being paired with that. That wasn't around like when they were making these bags. They had suede, they had turbo, which is the material I was talking about here, but that's like one of the most common materials that's been around for years. Yeah. And that's basically all they had. And then they had carpet. So I mean, that's if you go back to like really old companies' bags, that's what they used because nobody realized we should try all these other materials. So I'm hoping to loosen them up a little bit, but I was throwing them today. I mean, they throw good. I could cut them super well. I could roll them super well, but yet they were still decently hole friendly. I mean, I know people say they do hold up a tad. I mean, it just like any carpet, it's not going to melt in there.
They're going to.
But I really didn't find them unpleasant to play with. I'd say the negative for me is the same negative I had for the Vikings, which is the fast side. I just have to give a little bit more to really push. And sometimes with the bouncier bags, you give it a good little extra and then it'll flop on you. And then you're like, so that's the reason we were talking that I kind of want my carpet bag paired with that, Game Changer Viper material,
quick material,
just so I can like throw it my normal nice and easy and it'll slide right up there rather than, all right, I got to give this some oomph and hope it goes where I want it to go.
Exactly.
But it's classic bag for sure.
Really good bags.
Vikings, I don't even know what version these are. They're Pro Stem from last year. Okay, last year's. Yeah.
They're honeycombs, yep.
Okay, whatever. It looks cool.
I got a couple also.
Those are pre-stamp Vikings. I didn't know those were pre-stamp.
Bro, these are OG.
Yeah, I didn't know it was the old.
These are straight OGs, yeah.
I'm guessing those are more broken in than your 5 stars.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, mine are.
But they play great. They're not like overly loose.
Look at mine though. Mine are like.
I know yours are stupid, but these look like they're a little thinner than those actually.
Yeah, these are big puffers.
Which I actually prefer. I would like that more than this. But.
I would say like. Again, my only negative with this bag, I love throwing it, is just like I just feel like I don't, especially if it gets a little sticky. I'm like, great, so I have like nope, I can't push for anything. This is a block and roll bag only.
Yep.
But
that's what they do.
Vikings, though, for me, I'll go first on what I guess we'll do the stats. Same 4.7 speeds. The carpet feels very similar to the full carpets. If you tried, full carpets from companies, not the hybrids, it's a real carpet. The fast side, I do think the fast side is that 7 material we like, though.
It is. It is.
The fill, 100%. The fill is a smaller bead than the Reynolds. Like it's probably one of the smallest beads, which is why BG's has such puffy bags. It leads to that puffier fill. So if you're a fill nut, even though I'm a fill nut, I can look past it because I know what it's for and I know why it's small. And
the materials are both so thick that you don't feel it as much.
No, it makes a good handle still.
Exactly.
Like I would say, like in the grand scheme of all fills, this is probably my least favorite fill that exists. No, sand. I don't like sand. But
ooh,
well, it's my least favorite feeling fill in the hand other than sand.
That's fair.
But because I know the reason why it's puffy, it's supposed to play. I don't really notice it when I'm playing because I'm trying. I'm trying to focus on the other things. Price point. They have them on the website right now. They do pretty regular releases for $90 plus shipping, so around $100, $105, something like that. And then on Facebook, I got the set that was beat to all hell for like $65, but you can get it's like 110 and under, probably maybe 120 for nice.
Typically, it depends on design or if they're the anniversaries go a little higher.
Yeah, but I would say brand new, you're probably looking at like 100 to 110. You can get some used ones. I personally, when I buy carpet, like buying when people say like I've beat these to hell. I'm like, yep, sign me up. That's way less work for me. Send them over. Like for any of you guys that don't throw carpet is like you could run it over with like a car and be like, all right, so now we just start the break-in. Yeah. Like for some carpet bags today, I was literally throwing them on pavement just to like start to loosen it up a little bit. Use wrinkle guard, wash out the wrinkle guard, tumble for 5+ hours. It's like, all right, now it's throwable, but it's not even close to broken in.
Play right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for anyone who's learning a cut shot, learning a roll, and has new bags, I said this in a video I made today too. You have to break these in, like break them like to the point of no return to get it to play like that, to get it to start cutting and rolling the way you want it to and gripping the way you want it to. And they'll play fast. If you've never thrown carpet, they'll play at like a 5, 6, 7 speed when you break it out of the package and just use wrinkle guard on it. And then as you really, because I don't know if you can see in the camera, as you work it in, these fibers start pulling and like loosening up these fibers.
And ugly.
And it slows it down to like a 3-4 then. It gives you that more friction, but that's what grabs the board and that's what flips them over. I really like throwing Vikings. I just want the push side to be faster. But everything else about the Vikings, I really like. Like, I mean, it's my first like real carpet bag, like big puffy bag.
Yeah.
And now I've fallen in love with throwing roll bags, dude. It's the most satisfying shot that exists, in my opinion.
I know.
I'm like, and when you do it to your opponent, I don't care who you are, it's so demoralizing when someone rolls over the top. Like, it just feels so like it's worse than airmails.
I think it's worse than an airmail.
It's just like really,
the airmail, you shoot
really,
the airmail
man.
And they're like, oh, there's a chance they're missing. They see it flying through the air, and they're like, oh, that could be off the back.
Yeah.
You shoot a roll at them, they're like, oh, nice block, and then it goes boom, 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 blocks it, and they're like, oh.
Or like if people haven't thrown a roll shot before, if you miss a roll shot, you're probably still on the board. Or you're now on
a blocker or hanging.
Yeah, or it's on top of my bag, and now I'm like, well, this double sucks because I can't push my bag, and I can't like go over, and like there's this big sandwich in front of me. Like, what do I do now? Yeah, it's which is why I think carpet's the future, man. I know not for pro maybe because it's just so easy to just throw. They can just throw it in every single time, but future for me, man. I love dirtying up the board and throwing stuff out. So, well, you just got your Vikings back again recently after you started rolling again. So, what have your opinions been now that you got that flop in your arsenal?
Oh man, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I really like them. This set, it's my 5 stars. These are pretty broken in. I'll probably throw these more than the OGs. Hang on, babe. I'll probably throw them more than the OGs because the OGs are just they're a little floppy. They're a little loose, but it's an OG. That's why. I mean, they're super there. But they're almost a little too far past where I like a carpet to be. Carpet's got that sweet spot, right? But those are a little puffy.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
So the little puffier might actually help. These, I think it's just a little more effort to do like a flop and a roll with these.
Oh, really?
You really have to hit it just right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mine's like a bouncy ball.
These are puffier than the OGs are. And so they just look good. They feel good.
It is a cool design.
I love it, dude. I mean, it is nice. I mean, 5 stars local to me too. So that's pretty tight. Cool. But I like Vikings quite a bit. It's actually a toss up, like Vikings or Tangos. Which do I prefer for my carpet bag? Yeah, honestly, because I was throwing Tangos at the regional the other day, and I threw them for the first 2 games. And in the second game, they just weren't really acting right. And it's partially these boards. We talked about it a little bit. These boards are stupid bouncy. Tangos are already ridiculously bouncy. On my Pro Solution boards, they're already stupid bouncy. So it's just, I don't know. The Vikings they kind of play better sometimes. I just like the speeds. Like you're saying, that push side, you don't like that you have to give it a little extra. That keeps me safer.
Okay. So I would say when the boards are super fast, though,
it's gone.
When the boards are super fast, they play totally fine. I mean, like I like the push side. Yeah, the Tango thing, like I just want to set with the faster push side because up where I am, it's just humid all the time. Like it's almost never dry. So like I need that push side.
And the benefit there is if you're doing a flop, a lot of times when you're doing a flop, it lands on the fast side. Mm-hmm. If you're near the hole, that Tango side is going to fall in a lot easier than the Viking side will. But this is still very, very friendly.
Mine's nuts hole friendly.
This material. Yeah. I love this material. This is like, it's a pillow, right? Like it's literally my favorite material on a bag, just period, hands down. So I love them. I think they're amazing bags and really for the price. And they do drops, Sunday through Thursday? Yeah,
all the time.
Sunday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I mean,
and I hear they ship them out really fast. Like, I mean, I just saw someone, they just dropped the Halloween bags, and like I saw people posting their mail days today. And I was like, didn't they just drop those like 2 days ago?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the cool part, we're not doing a comparison necessarily between Pro Advantage and Viking, but both companies have amazing customer service. Mm-hmm.
They send you extra bags if they get like holes or defects and stuff. Like BG's really good about extra stuff.
That actually happened with these. Honestly, I have another set of these sitting there because they sent me another set because I had a huge chunk of resin in them. And I contacted them and said, hey, I got them secondhand. I understand if you can't do anything, but whatever. And he's like, oh, no, that's totally on us. We'll send you some. Boom. I had them.
That's cool.
They do a really good job. I mean, customer service is great. Price, I don't think $100 is bad.
Not for carpet.
I mean, 60 is better, but
yeah, but I got these for 60, so I got mine for 60.
See, there you go. So you can still get it for 60. But it's, I mean, you can't lose with either one of these. They're both great bags, especially if you're looking for the manipulator shots, you know, the cuts, roll, flops.
And like, if you guys are just like on the Facebook pages, like, you know, obviously you see stuff buying and selling all the time. Like, don't be afraid of buying a used set of carpet bags, because in my opinion, I like it more. Yeah. Like if you're like, if you were to tell me like, oh, I really want to learn how to throw a cut shot, I just brought new Vikings, and I'm like, talk back to me in like a month when they're finally broken in, and then we can talk about roll shots. Because right now you're either going to throw these for about 25 hours, or like, you know, you're going to either but like if you put product in it, you can't. The problem with carpet too is you can't really artificially break it in. You can try, but like it doesn't slowly get to the point it needs to get. You either like completely ruin the seams and start stretching the material using too much softener, or like, you know, or you permanently speed it up if you use conditioner and stuff.
You can soften it and loosen it, and that's my goal when I do it. Yep. I make it so it's throwable in my hand, but you have to finish it you have to finish it by throwing. Mm-hmm. There's really no other way. And I've told people 100 times, they're like, wow, that plays really nice. Why? And I hold it up like you did. And I'm like, see how fuzzy it is? Mm-hmm. I'm like, your carpet is not fuzzy at all. And like, I was telling you this the other day, I've literally stood there and I throw a bag a couple feet in the air and spin it real hard on the slow side and let it fall and hit my concrete.
I did that all day today.
Yeah, dude.
Like all day. And it does make it fuzzy.
The fibers a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, after a couple minutes of that, you know, maybe 10 spins per bag or whatever, you throw them and you're like, oh, those did slow down. How about that? Mm-hmm. You know, so, and
hey, caveat, anybody here who throws their bag on concrete and gets a pull, do not come talk to us. That this is a risk that you're willing to take, okay?
I didn't say slow side. I didn't say fast side.
Well, but I've had carpet like pull a strand out. Like if you...
Oh, I haven't.
Like not doing it, but like I've seen carpet pull that way out of the carpet.
Fair. Okay.
So like if you guys are like, I want to break in my carpet and throw it in my driveway, Corbin said that's perfect. Yeah, no. Your own risk could pull your carpet.
I'm not buying any new bags.
Yeah, exactly. We have the luxury of having to break in carpet, so anything I can do to slightly loosen up those fibers, better. The carpet is just eating my bags, man. I'm throwing them full speed. But yeah, I pleasantly surprised. In mine, maybe because I got puffier ones, mine are bouncy balls. I mean, like I can throw like a not even perfectly backloaded, and it's just like boop. Like, all right, cool, rolling in. Yeah, I was telling you, like with cut shots, this thing will cut like 50-degree angles. I mean, it's just it's crazy what they could do. Granted, they're insanely broken in, but
carpet baby,
super fun. Today we're going to go through, so we've gone through a lot of stuff on this podcast in terms of fills, materials, and like shot types and stances and grips. Today we're going to go through like practice routine. And next week we're going to go through like actual strategy. So we're kind of getting more into all right, we kind of got like a baseline of stuff. Now what's some things that you should work on and you should be seeing progress in? Like what's your goals for these things? Like to kind of get to a point that you feel like you're being consistent. And then next week we'll actually talk about like, hey, when you're playing a game, what are the shots you should be looking for? What's the strategy you should be looking for? Like, what are me and Corbin thinking when we're playing games to like, to make it more than just, because when we play, I mean, and you'll realize when you play good players, it's not, I mean, yes, you want to make it in the hole every time, but 90% of the time, the game is not just we both slide it in. It's you're manipulating bags, you're blocking behind, you're throwing these shots. So the practice is big because a lot of people, and I would say 90% of people, when they practice, they go outside and they try to just slide them all up the board. And then they wonder why they're not getting the results, or they're not maybe getting an understanding of different types of shots and whatnot. It's because you need to practice with a purpose. And Corbin's taking the kid over to but you need to practice with a purpose. And that's why a lot of the time me and Corbin will set up bags in a certain way or throw certain shots in a certain way to practice doing things repetitively to get better at them. So we're going to go through a couple of those things today. The first is just obviously what most people do to warm up. Almost this is the way everybody practices almost. It's just slide shots. So you're practicing, trying to throw all four in the hole, throwing your normal shots. Make sure you practice from both sides of the board. Get practice at those different angles. Practice, the spot you're landing on the board because you want to be consistent. You don't want to be landing right next to the hole and your misses are off the back. Try to practice. And the way I look at slide practice is not only do they go in the hole, but if they don't go in the hole, I want to be either slightly short or right parallel with the hole. Like I want my slide distance to be that far, right?
Right.
So I don't want to be like leaving it 5 feet short, and I don't want to be lightninging everything out the back. So you can make everything in the hole, but if your one miss is 20 feet long, that's bad, you know? So you should practice that distance you're practicing. So I would just call this a warm up. You know, I wouldn't really call that practice. I would just kind of say that's a generic.
No, but it can be.
Yeah.
And I think it's smart to actually practice slides on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because I'm a slow side thrower. Almost 90% of the time I'm throwing slow side, but you still need to practice that fast side just in case you have a situation where, you know, you might be doing a little step out because you got a blocker in front, or like the board situation calls for a little step, but you're going to go fast side so that you can kind of wrap around and drop it in. Right.
And we'll get
that
into
requires
that
a lot more touch.
Yeah. The get arounds and the stuff. And
yeah, of course. But I think it's still important to practice a slide, just a basic slide, even open board. I don't care. Slow side and fast side regardless.
And I would say, so, I mean, I have a couple buddies that are very good players that just never throw fast side. Like they just don't enjoy the way it feels, or they don't enjoy like the different types of throws. And we tell them all the time, and I would tell all of you, if you're not used to throwing hard pushes or fast side, the key with practicing fast side is realizing that you don't have to throw it extra hard. The fast side does that work for you. So it's kind of getting used to being like, oh, I can throw this nice, easy throw that I always throw, and the bag is still lightninging up the board, right? So when you get in that push shot scenario, you can be nice and easy with the bag. You don't have to be like, oh man, I'm giving this extra, because if you give extra to a fast side, a lot of times you'll roll over your bags, or you even push everything over the hole. So getting used to throwing a fast side on a consistent basis and learning how to stay nice and easy and in your rhythm while switching sides, I think is really important. The second type of shot or practice we'll get into is block shots. In my personal opinion, this is one of the hardest shots in cornhole. The reason that I say a block shot is one of the hardest shots in cornhole is because if you miss left or right or short on a block shot, a lot of the times that bag is completely dead. But on that note, if you can get good at block shots, I think it's the most powerful bag that exists in cornhole.
It's so important.
There's no other shot that you can do that just puts the pressure on your opponent, especially mentally and consistently. And even if they're a great player or they have a lane, just a little bit in the way makes it so the shot is a little more difficult. You know, and if they push your bag and they go off to the side, a lot of the time you're closer to the hole, or they are slightly off, or maybe they have a dead bag. And now that's, you know, we call that a 2-point advantage when they have a dead bag. So the block shot is super, super important, but it's very difficult. And I don't think enough people practice them, and they just expect to be able to, oh, I'm just going to throw it a little softer. Yeah, but if you throw it a little softer, your timing's off, and you throw a little more left, you throw a little more right, you short arm it. It's a very thing you need to practice. So what I like to try to do, and I don't know how you'd practice this, but I like to throw it and try to land it like 3 to 4 inches before the hole in a certain square, right? So, and preferably my square is from the edge of the hole on my side to about 6 inches left of the hole on their side, with the 6 inches on my side being a bad block, because you're blocking yourself, like a dead zone
because it's
kind
dead
of thing.
Yeah.
So my goal is to hit kind of right on their middle half of the hole, about 4 inches short. And so anything in that square I consider a good block, and getting used to just stopping a bag right there every single time. Even if you're not going to go for these roll shots or all these other shots, it's just, you can slide the rest of your 3 in, and now they have to deal with something. They either got to airmail, they got to go around, they got to push through. You're making their game harder is the point of the block shot.
It's so important. And I play competitive, you play competitive, right? So I always tell people in competitive, especially because if you get to advanced, it's not as effective, right?
Well, they're just so good.
I mean, because those guys are so good, you know, they'll get around, they'll shoot over, they'll do whatever. But in competitive, a block is a crucial shot to be able to do. I mean, it's just, you throw a block and they're like, oh my gosh, I actually played a dude Sunday. His first 3 rounds were 10, 12, 12 because he had first throw. As soon as I got first throw and put a block on him, he went off to the left. I'm like, interesting. Like, he couldn't deal with a block because he was a slide side thrower and just like to slide them all in. So blocks are they're huge. You have to practice them. I mean, if you can't figure it out, keep doing it, work harder, keep throwing. I mean, it's so, so important.
Like we joke about all the time about like the old person that walks up with the game changer. It's like you throw a block against,
wasn't a game changer.
Yeah, but you throw a block against one of those people, that's their whole game is slide in the hole, right? So, and I would say Minnesota, where I'm at, we have a lot less competitive players than you do out in Michigan in terms of like pros and advanced level players. So almost everybody here is a slide in the hole kind of person. So if you can get used to throwing a good blocker, that's kind of why I've been getting into more carpet and learning these roles, is because especially in my area without that level of advanced players, getting that block roll game, it nets you so many points because they just can't deal with it.
So many. It's ridiculous. It's so underrated.
Yeah, very much so.
Such a simple shot and so underrated.
And so difficult. Everyone thinks it's so easy.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's very hard, actually.
Yeah, like a lot of people, you might throw it at the hole and you leave it a little short, and you're like, oh, that was a good blocker. When you try to do it on purpose, it's very hard to do it consistently on purpose. And like I said, it's the most punishing miss, because if you miss, you just have a dead bag. And a lot of time you might give them a bumper. You might block yourself.
Yeah.
You might, so like it's really high risk, high reward. Everyone loves to see the airmails, the rolls, these flashy shots. But I think that's almost the most high risk, high reward, because the bumper bag, I think, is like the most powerful tool that you can give your opponent in cornhole. You make the hole double the size. So having that good block is very, very important.
Hang on. The hardest shot for me is actually when, say your opponent's got two in front of the hole. I got one off to the left. Hang on, babe. You can drink it. I got one on the left. He's next to me, right? He's throwing from the right. I'm on the left. And my partner's like, put it right here. Put it right behind their bag so that they can't push, right? And I'm like, all right, got this.
You miss a little.
Throw my block. I leave it a little bit to the right. Give them a perfect runway. That's the hardest shot for me, is to like lay up a block behind.
100%. I don't know why I can't do that shot.
Sometimes I do it no problem.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, well, I just gave you a runway. It's cool.
Or you're like, they have two bags in the middle. I've missed one left, overcorrected, went right. It's like, okay, just go behind. And then I like miss again. I'm like,
go behind it.
God, how is this so hard?
So easy, but so difficult.
But again, it's the short arming. It's like when you're not throwing it in the hole. And again, like I'm guilty of this too. I practice just tons of slide shots. You get in a position, you're like, okay, I'm used to the distance of a slide shot. I need to just block behind. And all of a sudden, it's like, what do I do? How do I throw it correctly? How do I throw it flat? All this kind of stuff. So blocks, we talked about that for a while, but it's worth the practice.
It's just important.
Worth it. Yeah, it's good. And that leads into the next shot too, which is push shots. Because blocks and pushes, obviously, we talk about blocks and pushes as a play style. They go hand in hand in practice as well. A lot of the time for push practice, I'll lay out a bag in front of the hole to start. And I actually think a push shot with a single bag on the board, like no bumpers, no anything else around, is a very difficult shot that I think people think is very easy.
It's hard.
Because when you're throwing a fast side into it, you kind of got to get enough of the bag dead on to push it straight without knocking to the side or knocking other directions. So
especially if you're laying a V block.
Oh, the V block's brutal. Yeah. You can V block yourself pretty easily.
That's what I'm saying.
But so I like laying a bag out in front of the hole and pushing it in. If I clear the bag out of the way, then I'll try to do that block practice and follow up with another push. Another thing with push practice that I'll try to practice is what we call a replacement bag, which I think a replacement bag is also one of the best shots in cornhole. Where like you have a bag that's blocking the hole and you throw a bag that pushes that bag in, but your bag you just threw kind of sits in the exact same spot that blocker bag just was. Because now it's like, all right, cool. You technically made one in the hole, but now your opponent still has to deal with your blocker bag. They don't have
they're still getting around a bag.
You didn't full clear out the hole. So again, everything, and we'll get into this more when we talk about strategy too. Every single thing in cornhole is about incremental advantages, because a 12 to a 10 is the exact same amount of points as a 5 to a 3. Right? I mean, so it's okay if you gum up the board and you like if you replace and they gum the whole board up with all four of their bags and you make the other 3, you just netted 2 points. You have 1 in the hole and 3 on the board. And that's just as good as having a slide in the hole fight. And I think people underestimate, they're like, oh, we all got it on the board, but none went in the hole. It's like, yeah, but if I have 1 in the hole, that's still 2 points. I mean, 2 points is 2 points. And a lot of the time I would find if you take people out of the slide fight, that's when you get your 6s, your 5s, your 6s, your 7-point rounds. When people are like, oh, I got to go through this block, and then they miss off to the back, to the left, and then they get pushed away. And so push shots, and we were talking about this a little bit ago, talking about fast side. Getting used to throwing your fast side is really, really important. And I tell people this all the time. If you don't like the fast side material, like you don't like holding it, you need to find a different bag. Because you need to have a bag that when you flip it over or use both sides, you're comfortable with both those materials. Because the perk of these two-sided bags is you have 2 completely different play styles in one bag.
Sorry.
Sorry, guys.
She goes, why am I looking at Eddie? I'm like, I don't know, why are you?
But getting used to using that fast side and getting those push shots, because the fast sides can do awesome things, but they can be really punishing if you go too hard.
Yeah.
And just being to the point that you have a two-sided bag. I know I hear people like, oh, when it gets humid, I just use the fast side of this bag all the time. I'm like, yeah, but then you're so one-dimensional. You have no other options. Like you need to have a bag that has two sides you can use. Yeah, and it's really important to have two sides you enjoy, which is why
that's why bags have two sides.
Exactly. And we review so many bags, guys. Like if you don't like a fast side material, there's another material at that same speed that it will suit you better. Like if you don't like the Game Changer grittiness, throw the Pro Sniper fast side, Viper fast side. It's smoother. If you don't like how thin that is, there's a couple new bags coming out with synthetic fast sides. The new Lightning from Reynolds is a super soft 9 that is really comfy to hold. There's tons of options. Find one that you like flipping around and using both sides of, because those are huge.
Absolutely.
The next shot, you alluded to this a little bit with the fast side, but a get around shot and a bully bag practice. I think the bully bag is obviously a lot easier than a get around shot because you're basically using a bumper.
Yes.
To an extent. Easier than a get around, but I think it's still harder. For all of you that don't know what a bully bag is basically if they miss the bag next to the hole, let's say I'm on the right side, so they miss it left of the hole. I throw my bag to hit into their bag to push it out of the way, which then ricochets mine into the hole. So not only did I slide mine in, but I made theirs unplayable. Like I made them ungettable. Right?
Dead bag.
And and that's really important because we talk about advantages. That's a 2-point swing because they cannot collect that and yours is now in the hole. So bully bags, really important. How I practice that, I lay a bag out blocking your opponent's side, like on the side of your opponent, and practice just hitting into that bag and bullying it out of the way. Again, the block shot, the really cool part about block shot practice is it can go with all of these other practices in terms of if you successfully make a bully shot, try to throw a block in front of them again so you can bully off of that again, right? And get used to throwing these shots that aren't just sliding into the hole. Because at the end of the day, if you practice enough and you're good enough, you can slide it in the hole a good amount of times, right? Like everybody can figure out how to slide it in the hole. It's figuring out these things that are going to make you guys really, really good and make you better. But you talk a little bit about that get around shot. You talked about it slightly. But
it's actually a really, really fun shot if you can get the hang of it. It's also incredibly difficult because it takes a lot of finesse.
Sure.
You'll see a lot of people step out when they're doing it. And I do the same thing because it's typically a get around is you have the front of the hole pretty clogged. You don't really want to shoot an airmail for whatever reason, but you have if you stay on the left side of the board, you got that little left sliver just in the back or along the side, because the front's pretty clogged up, but you don't want to touch those bags at all. So typically the way I do it, I flip to fast side and it's just more of a lofted throw. And it's like you're saying, fast side, you don't have to throw it harder. You don't have to, with a push. You
got the peanut tower.
Yeah, whatever. I know, dude. Sorry. Dude, she's just stacking bags. It's whatever. But, you're lofting it up and you want it to land soft, carry up, and it just wraps around the backside of the hole and falls in. You're getting around that block or you're playing a really finesse shot. If you have touch and you can do that, that's actually if my opponent does that, I'm like,
well, and you can kind of tap, I would say the get around bully almost go hand in hand where in a get around, you can kind of tap into the bag a little bit as you're sneaking around because that fast side usually doesn't grab too hard.
Yeah,
so it can kind of sneak past a little bit. So that's kind of how I do my get arounds is I try to just kind of nick the back corner of the bag a little bit to kind of turn my bag the last little bit to catch the edge. But it's very much, that's why when I talked about when you're practicing your slides, getting it where it stops next to the hole every time, getting used to that speed. Because if you're throwing a get around, you want it to slide up and stop right next to the hole just enough that it can start tumbling in, right?
Needs to fall in.
Any too far, you're over the back. Any too short, you're not going to get that chance to start falling in. So it definitely is a finesse shot.
And it takes a quicker bag. That's the unfortunate part.
It has to be that 8-9.
The 6 or 7 speed isn't really going to do it. It's unless the boards are playing just stupid fast that day. But that 7 kind of tends to go and just sit. The 8 or 9s, they're the ones that'll start to beads fall in and the whole bag just wants to slide. So it takes the faster bag, which also takes more finesse because of that.
Yep. Next one, obviously we've talked about this one a lot because we were both getting into carpet a lot. The flop roll shot. My roll practice is pretty simple. I just line up 4 bags in a line about 3 inches in front of the hole. And then I just practice trying to roll over the top. A lot of the time too, if you mess up a roll shot, you're probably going to push the bags forward a little bit or something. Use that to your advantage. Like you're building a clog, try to roll over a longer area of bags. Try rolling the other direction. Try cutting around the bags. It's okay. The way I look at it is whether I need to do a push shot, a longer roll in that round. How can I make as many of my bags without making their bags? Because they started in front. Maybe it's I roll down behind them. Great. Now I can kind of push and finesse around. So I use that roll bag as almost like a real game practice of like, okay, I missed a roll. Roll's probably not the best here. How do I get the most out of this round without messing with their bags, whether it's cutting, or rolling, doing that kind of stuff?
Yep. And I think the cut, roll, and flop kind of all belong in the same category.
Yeah.
Because, a roll and a flop, if you guys don't know the difference, a roll, the bag is typically angled and it hits the board and it rolls end over end. A flop, you're doing a wheelie, your nose up, backloaded, nose up, whatever you want to call it. When it hits the board and it hits the bag, it flops over, throws the beads forward. So they are different shots. They're utilized in a very similar fashion, but those two are very similar. But when I throw my flop roll hybrid that we both have, right? I actually do it sometimes when there's not a bag directly in front of the hole because it acts as a cut for me.
Sure.
You're saying that you can get
too. Yeah.
You get your nose down, you throw that hard cut.
I just started that today and I found that I was catching a little harder, but yeah.
But you get that big swing. I don't have that ability with how I throw my bag. So if I throw a flop bag, it'll hit and it'll hit flat. It goes up onto its right side. And then when it gets near the hole, gravity brings it back down and it falls. So it becomes a little bit of a cut shot. So it's super utility throw. Honestly, I love it. That's why I throw it so often. But cut, roll, flop, they're all just ridiculous and they're really demoralizing. Like we've said, you do something like that, you lay that perfect block.
Another thing with cut shot practice too is like let's say there's no bag or you happen to push a bag in the hole and you could practice a cut shot because of the way I throw my roll bag, that it's very similar to the cut shot, that you're basically practicing a roll bag again, even though it's just cutting around. Great. So, and we talk a lot, and I have a video coming out on how to throw the roll bag. One of the biggest parts of the roll bag is you have to land it 2 to 3 inches behind the bag that you're trying to flop over. So it has time to get up on its edge and catch and roll over. Where the main practice of your roll bag is going to be, you see the bag on the board. Can you mentally figure out how far I need to throw this to land at that point every single time, right? Because if you land too far, you're going to push the bag. If you land too short, you're not going to start rolling. So figuring out that distance control is going to be your biggest practice point with the roll bag. I know I've put at least 20 hours into roll bags already just to be able to finally do it decently consistently.
I've been doing them for
many hours.
I want to say like 3 months now I've been practicing them, and I do it the same way you do. If I just want to practice them specifically, I put 2 bags out front, because then a set does both sides, 2 on one, 2 on the other. And my buddy and I,
hey, you're innovating. Before you didn't do the other side. Look at this guy.
Yeah, boy, I got it. Hey, you only lead a horse to water, right?
Yeah.
But I do 2 on either side. And, if you bump them, if you mess them up, whatever, just put them back, throw down, keep doing it. It's practice, 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 practice. That's like every shot. Slides are practices. It's a different style of practice,
And we're not, and I want to caveat this by saying, I'm not saying slide shot practice is a bad thing. I'm saying that it shouldn't be your only thing you do when you practice by yourself. Because I feel like some people go outside their backyard and they're like, all right, I'm going to try to throw 4 bags. And I'm like, that's great. And it's great to practice slide shots. It's the most common shot you're going to use on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
But you need to be able to practice all these other shots. So when you get in a scenario that you need this shot, it's not like, oh man, this like, what do I do? It's just like, oh yeah, I see it.
Oh no, I never do it. I'm going to mess it up.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about the cut shot real quick too. So we talked a little bit about the cut shot. What the cut shot is you want the bag on tilt so that when it hits, it slaps and changes momentum directions to cut around a bag. So like if a bag is blocking directly in front of you, you could throw it in a way that it cuts around the back of the bag, and so then you don't have to go through this blocker bag. How I practice, I put a bag like in front of me and a block, maybe not 100% blocking me, but slightly to the side to give myself a little bit of room. And the thing I've been trying to practice, and granted, guys, I don't even know how to do this that well yet, is cutting left to right. Because cutting left to right is so hard to come off my hand to get it to go this angle. Like I haven't quite, I've gotten it a little bit, but I haven't quite figured out the right way to get it. So having both those shots is really important because it's easy for me to cut right to left, but cutting left to right is also a very important shot if you're on the other side of the board. The cut shot.
I'm opposite of you.
Oh,
I
really?
can go left to right. I can't go right to left.
Well, you said because the wrist thing. I can't
That's
go left
partially
to
like
right.
it's the release. It's from left to right. It's just that's my normal throw will kind of do that. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, mine does not. But cut shots are equally as awesome to have, and you can cut any bag. I was the other night, the
Oh,
boards
you
got
can.
sticky. I was throwing a 7-speed and I was cutting around bags.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it comes in handy, especially if you learn how to throw that flop, that cut shot, and you can break it out on a fast bag and be comfortable with it because those bags are so hole friendly. It'll just kind of scoot around stuff, and it's almost like a pseudo get around bag
It's a
that's
great
just
shot.
barely cutting. That can really benefit, especially if there's some backboard back there. You just throw something that kind of loops around the side. Cut bags are awesome and something you really should have in your arsenal. The last type of practice is you probably the flashiest shot if rolls aren't, but airmails. So airmail practice, in my opinion, I shoot at least 30 to 40 in a row, like 10 rounds, because I need to get to the point, and the biggest key with airmail practice, in my opinion, is get to the point that you can almost have an epiphany moment where it's like, I feel how hard I'm throwing it. Or maybe for me, I step a certain distance, like my follow through is a certain amount of power every time that it helps me get the same distance every time. Because you want to make it, even if you're missing left or right, that's fine. It should be landing right where the hole is every time. Because if you can get that distance down, then whatever, it's a directional thing. But you want to be able to get to the point that it's like your throw is so consistent the way you're doing it that it goes the same distance every single time. And I would say after you throw 30 or 40 in a row, not just like chuck, like consciously
you don't just
focusing.
Wing them. Never just wing them.
Yeah, consciously focusing like, all right, I did this. I noticed I did this. It flew this far. Do it again. And do that 30, 40 times. I promise you, like there was one day I did it and all of a sudden I'm going to events. I'm like, my airmail confidence is like through the roof. Like I'm like, I'll just shoot them now because I'm just like, I know how to do it. I know how to throw it. Granted, I haven't practiced them in a while, so that confidence is completely gone. But I need to go have another session to get it back up again. But
yeah, I typically practice my airmails at the end of every session, actually. Whether I'm throwing for a video, whether I'm doing, just messing around with flops and doing whatever. Whenever I'm throwing my last 10 minutes or whatever it may be, and I'll do 8 bags each side or, each walk back, whatever.
30 today.
I want to do 4 from one side, 4 from the other, and I want to see, is there a better side that I'm better airmailing from? Because then if it's a game where I know I'm going to need it, I can tell my partner, hey, I much prefer airmailing from the outside or, whatever it is. So I think it's really important. I tell a lot of people that all the time, like, how do you practice your airmails? Like, and every session, like you're saying, 30 or 40 of them, just shoot them. Because then you're going to start to figure it out at some point. You'll start to figure it out. You'll get it. And as gratifying as flops and rolls are, an airmail drag to win the game.
Oh, it's the best.
It feels good, right?
I think actually my favorite shot that exists in cornhole is when you have like this much of the bag in the hole and you just like and like grab it out of there.
You see the bag lift a little bit and drop in.
But and you said this too. Don't just wing them. Like practice throwing them in terms of like notice like, oh, I went long. Why did I go long? Did I feel like I threw it harder? Did I step harder? If you're stand still, did I use my legs or something? What are you doing that's making it go longer? Because you need to get some kind of physical cue that clicks that it's like, this is how far an airmail is. Like when I do this, it goes.
You need to figure out where it's at.
Exactly. And that's key.
It's always practice with purpose.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys can use some of those tips. I think if you can add those shots or at least become comfortable with those shots, the biggest thing with practicing is, especially with the flop, even I'm starting to get the flop pretty good. Would I use it in the game yet? I'm not sure, so you got to get to that mental breaking point that you're like, I'm totally fine breaking out a cut shot in a game, knowing that I'm not just going to wing it off the right side because I'm so used to throwing them. So practicing with a purpose and practicing all these shots, you'll be amazed at how much benefit it will have on your game in general. And looks like Corbin got yanked away for another one, but
I'm here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. But
I'm sorry. I'm here.
But yeah, so Vikings and Pro Advantages. The reason we kind of brought these up with the practice methods too. If you want to learn a cut or a roll, these are the bags. The Vikings, especially broken in Vikings, are the easiest bag that I think I learn how to roll with. It's a controllable speed. It flops really, really well. And the Pro Advantage, if you want to learn, if you get a broken in set of Pro Advantages for $40, you can easily learn how to roll at a super cheap price, and then determine if you like carpet and you want to invest in carpet because you can get them so cheap. So both great options. They've been around for a really long time. There's a reason they're still really good. and there's a reason people still use them. So appreciate you guys stopping by for another episode. If you like these, please check out both of our channels. If you want to see reviews on these bags, check out our channels as well. And we'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, guys.